Clover.
It really actually does. Hey there, YouTube. I want to talk about God Hand. So, God Hand is a game from 2006. It's a fist punch action game made by the now defunct Clover Studios. It's gained kind of a cult following due to the poor reception it received upon its initial release, and the fact that the developer has sort of moved on and become well, not when I say the developer, I mean
Gene,
large portions of the development
this place
team
reeks.
has moved on and become Platinum
Wait,
Games,
You don't
which
expect
is
me to mop
very
up,
famous
do
for
ya?
Come on.
never
These
making
guys
a bad
are
game.
Not to mention,
Just
much
about everything
sexier
that they
than
produce
you.
is absolute
Wow,
gold
your sexy
and
little
super fun to play.
friends. They're coming
And
for
this
a
is kind of
dance.
where it all starts. I mean, that's not wholly true. Where it all starts is actually
Still
Resident Evil
sexier
4,
than you are.
which the studio developed, or again, large parts of the development house developed before this. And I just want to take a bit of a quick look real fast and see why perhaps God Hand received the poor reception that it did initially. And I think a large part of that is this initial area, which is just absolutely completely barren, and there's basically no introduction whatsoever. So as you can see, you're just kind of unceremoniously dumped into immediate combat with two characters, and you don't really know what to do. They don't tell you how the controls work, and it sounds like such a new gaming kind of complaint, but it means a lot for a game to just kind of thrust you into the middle of the action and not really tell you anything about it. Just imagine buying a $60 game, coming home, popping it in, and just being like, what is this? What is happening? Oh my gosh. God Hand presents that scenario very well. I mean, look at this first tutorial. It's just use the right analog sticks. It doesn't tell you anything about how the camera works, how attacks work, or anything like that. Now, if you're not a plain simpleton, you've probably played a beat 'em up before, and you probably are willing to press the start button and check out this menu. But otherwise, the game is very unfriendly. And I think that's definitely a very valid criticism, and very important as to why the game was received so poorly initially. I'm just gonna drop kick this guy. Because I talked about Platinum Studios earlier, and if you take a look at their kind of more contemporary releases, say Wonderful 101 has a gigantic prologue tutorial level type stage. Even Bayonetta, the Bayonetta 1, it's been a while since I played Bayonetta 2, but Bayonetta 1 definitely has a giant tutorial stage after, of course, the cinematic prologue kind of thing. But these games, made by the same sort of studio, they still spend a long time sort of teaching you the rules. I don't want to murder that guy. He's very close to death. Yeah, and I murdered him anyways. That's fun. But, so it's really weird. And, I mean, there's something to be said about a game not telling you anything and you just kind of going in with your own sort of experience of it, but it's definitely a weak point of God Hand, that it tells you nothing and continues to tell you nothing for the duration. That doesn't make it a bad game, by no means whatsoever. God Hand is what I would consider nearly perfect, and the nearly that it falls short of is simply in its introduction. And once you kind of get over that and sort of start getting into the meat of the gameplay, it's an amazing experience that doesn't let up and only compounds upon itself. But I mean, let's take a look at another very unfriendly element about this first stage. So there's just this guy right here. Oh, well, jeez. That makes it even worse, I feel. But yeah, this demon character is actually an incredibly difficult character. I'm somewhat experienced with the game, and I still have trouble dealing with these guys. Ignore that. He actually counts against immediately. But not knowing anything about how the game works, and running upon this like very difficult enemy is like kind of a dick move, for lack of a better word. Whoa. Get that guy out of here. And so I mean, as a first-time player, you're probably gonna get wrecked by this guy a couple of times, and just sort of learn to avoid him, because I mean, I don't believe this is like directly related to the mission, but it might be. At any rate, that's cool. Oh my god, that's one of the better ones. So that's so one of the strong points of God Hand, just to break that previous train of thought entirely, is the technique system. And so you get all these sorts of different techniques, and they have all sorts of different functionalities. So heat up, unblockable. The unblockable moves are actually extremely broken and kind of super move into the game type stuff. Charge attack, juggle enemy, all sorts of cool stuff. And having those categories and things kind of up front tells you what they're good for. And this one does evade high attack. And so what that does is it basically functions like the dodge forward technique. I'm gonna die. But by the way, like speaking of unfriendliness, that axe kick right there that you kind of can only do over fallen enemies. I didn't even know I could do that the first time I beat this game. Like literally, I reached the end of the game and didn't discover that until I finished it and looked up some YouTube videos after the fact. I keep meaning to do the drop kick, but it's not coming out. That'll work. Okay. Oh well. But so, as you can probably tell with my trouble commentating here, it's that God Hand's kind of a hard game to talk and play, and it's also far more fun to actually play than it is to talk about. So, if you haven't played it yet, I highly suggest you go play this fantastic game. But I do, as I said, it is not without its flaws. However, God Hand is one of the few games that I would recommend not going into blind. Just simply because of just how little it tells you up front. Just everything from what the gold is worth, what the level system is, how the God Hand activates, things like that are just not ever explained in any meaningful way. Even like what your death is worth, like, so I just died there, what's the consequences of that? Well, it turns out you just kind of start at whatever arbitrary checkpoint it's set, and you don't get a bonus at the end of the stage, and that's about it. So it's God Hand is also kind of weird for just coming so late and also looking pretty terrible. You have to understand that like this game came when the Xbox 360 is straight up out. PS3 is coming. And it just like starts you off in this horrible looking shitty desert and doesn't tell you anything. And this is like at a time when games are becoming more inclusive, more friendly, and you've got this weird game that just kind of expects you to pick it up and learn it via trial by fire.
Nice.
So again, that's easily explains sort of the poor criticism the game received upon its release, which is unfortunate. But what is fortunate is that it seems the studio didn't lose a passion for this type of game, just this type of like mechanically rock solid golden type of nonsensical silliness. I really haven't even talked about the tone of the game, which is partially one of its best. It's one of its best features. Let's be honest. I mean, everybody is blasting around like cartoon characters. There's laid back, sort of bluegrassy guitar strumming in the background. it's just a fun B-movie schlocky type experience, which again is quite weird coming off of Resident Evil 4, and I think that's partially why they did it. But
What a pain in the behind.
it's also very strange that like the game presents this laid-back, cartoony manner, but it's actually just like constructed, it's like so methodically, so almost scientifically, I would say, to just be like super easy to learn. Not easy to learn, I guess that's it. Hard to learn, hard to master is what God Hand really is. There's just so many little nuances in every little bit of the gameplay, like that little pummel bit right there. You may notice that it came at the end of the of my super mode, my Devil Trigger type God Hand maneuver. I really want to believe that that's not accidental, because if you notice that I was still doing like God Hand damage at the end of that sequence, even though the meter had already run out, because I had initiated that pummel QTE. And so little things like that kind of teach you to like vet yourself to watch out for QTEs, and also to kind of mete out how you use your God Hand power.
I love it.
Just there's tiny little master strokes like that in just about every centimeter of this game, and it's just incredibly fun. Every playthrough is very different. There's so many random elements, which is also, I feel, a little bit of a failure in some parts. There's so many random elements, just like things like, I don't know what are in these boxes. There could be nothing, or there could be this card here that wasn't there last time. And I think that lends itself to that kind of reflects Shinji Mikami, the director of this game. It reflects his kind of horror backgrounds. He's best known for Resident Evil, and that Resident Evil is of course a game about resource management, and I mean it's survival horror for a reason, because you're having to pay attention to all of your resources and what they mean and whatnot. And God Hand kind of injects a little bit of that by randomizing things, but keeping certain things solid. So you don't know which items you're going to come across, or which power-ups you're going to encounter. Things like health and things like revitalizing your God Hand meter, those little booby cards all over the place. Those are all completely random. And so it's you kind of have to move on the fly and just sort of adapt to situations in a manner similar to survival horror. So I'm just gonna go ahead and skip this. It's a funny cutscene. She sticks a kick me sign on the back of his back. It's funny. So, I don't think there's too much more to say about God Hand that can be said while being pummeled inside God Hand. But suffice to say that God Hand is a supremely well-designed video game, and one that just wears its video gameness on its sleeve in every way. Just from dumb skull levels at the bottom and big dumb power-ups and fruits as life replenishing items, for Christ's sake. And oh gosh, lest we forget, explosive red barrels. So, but God Hand is a game that I think is a little refreshing to go back to, because there's so many games that are focusing on realism and graphical fidelity and whatnot, and I am being a bit of a hypocrite because I'm emulating this with anti-aliasing and widescreen hack on. Although I believe the game was meant to be widescreen, and I think it came that late in our console generation that it darn well should have. I'm just gonna see if I can punch this dude in the balls, or kick rather. Then, oh no, Dragon Punch. But God Hand wasn't. It came after Resident Evil, which is I keep mentioning that, but I think that's really important to understanding just kind of the tone that, or just kind of the rut, so to speak, that God Hand exists in. That it came after this smash success on every level, and it was kind of the passion project that the team wanted to do, They wanted to. They had felt that action games had gone far too gun focused in recent years, and they wanted to bring it into like they wanted to have a hand-to-hand kind of style to it. And there's all sorts of little weird pop culture references and terrible voice acting, and just weirdness oozing from every pore. Like that. Look at that guy. He just rocketed at me. Oh Jesus. Oh, that may be the first time I've ever managed to dodge that move. But it failed. Oh, there you go. See you later, buddy. Oh, that was a waste. But God Hand failed, and it's really sad because I think if it was made today and maybe by like an indie studio or something like that, we're just so inundated with these sort of like underdog stories. Oh man, I didn't know you can so easily knock people off this thing. I was getting off point there for a second. By inundated, I mean, I guess gaming is just kind of, there are so many facets to it now that are so different from the culture that God Hand came out in. Where, as I mentioned, the Xbox 360 was just coming out. Everybody's trying to push graphical fidelity and AAA titles, and gaming is just being welcomed into the mainstream. And there's this weird game that doesn't really fill any niche that would sell on the level of Resident Evil 4. But it's nice though that we can just we can look upon it fondly now, and I hope many of you do. And if you don't, I would highly recommend checking it out in any way that you can. It's a fantastic game. I can't really vouch for the PSN release of it. I have not played that, but I personally own a copy of the PS2 disc, and if you can find that anywhere, I would treasure it. God Hand's a great game. Oh god. Man, I'm cool.